Good morning and welcome to the Common Good Breakfast. On behalf of Neuger Communications Group and our sponsors, I want to extend a warm and gracious welcome to each of you. Thank you all for coming. We are glad you are here. I say it isn't a party unless people show up, so thank you for taking time from your day to be here. My name is Ruth Neuger, and I am a print consultant for Engage Print. Engage Print is a full-service commercial printer offering both digital and offset printing. Our other abilities include variable data printing, bindery, and mailing services. For those of you unfamiliar with Neuger Communications Group, they are a communications firm that is very good at their job. They assist clients by helping them tell their story in an authentic way through website design and development, print, media, strategic planning, and crisis communications. And like I said, they are quite good at it. Thank you to the law firm of Gray Plant Moody. Gray Plant Moody has the largest U.S.-based franchise practice. They have offices in Minneapolis, St. Cloud, Fargo, and Washington, D.C., with affiliates in over 50 countries. Though they do a great deal locally, they are a nationally recognized law firm. They opened their doors in 1866. For those of you good with numbers, you now know that they are celebrating their 150th anniversary, which makes them the longest-standing firm in Minneapolis. Woven into their practice is not only the commitment to finding practical solutions to business issues, but also the idea of improving the communities which they serve. They consistently showcase community and leadership initiatives by supporting events such as this. Thank you also to Flight Creative Media for their role in recording this morning's sessions. They have been a great partner of Neuger Communications Group. And I must say a big thank you to Engage Print for their role in sponsoring this morning's event as well. We would love the opportunity to partner with all of you for your printing needs. Thank you to all of our sponsors for their support for this Common Good Breakfast series. For those of you joining us for the first time and may not know about the Common Good Breakfast series, all the proceeds from these mornings go to a selected non-for-profit. This morning, our donations will go in two directions: the YWCA of Minneapolis and to Carolyn's Comforts. Here to give us a deeper understanding of Kevin Warren and his support of Carolyn's Comforts is Becky Mulkerson. Becky is the Executive Vice President for the University of Minnesota Foundation. Also speaking will be Mary Jones, who will share information about the YWCA. Mary is the Vice President and Chief Advancement and Program Officer for the YWCA of Minneapolis. Becky, we will lead off with you.
Thank you and good morning. Well, I'm honored to help in welcoming Kevin Warren as one of this morning's speakers. He serves as a member of the University of Minnesota Foundation Board of Trustees. Kevin is an attorney and professional sports executive. He is currently the Chief Operating Officer of the Minnesota Vikings, and he is the highest-ranking African-American executive working on the business side for an NFL team. Kevin is guiding the direction of the Minnesota Vikings. And as we can all see, literally see, this is an incredibly positive and exciting time for the fans of the Purple, with the U.S. Bank Stadium opening shortly. The new Vikings headquarters and practice facility in Eagan is underway, and Super Bowl 52 is coming here in 2 years. But what you may not know about Kevin is that he is a faith-based leader and is committed to making positive differences in his work throughout the community with his knowledge and his resources. In August 2012, Kevin and his wife Greta adopted the Lucy Craft Laney Community School in Minneapolis. That year, the Warrens donated 650 backpacks filled with school supplies to the entire student body. And in 2013, the Warrens donated 700 school supply-filled backpacks. In December 2014, Kevin and Greta donated $1 million to establish the Carolyn's Comforts Children's Cancer Emergency Assistance Fund in honor of his sister Carolyn, who lost her long battle to cancer earlier that year. You know, there's just no easy way to express our gratitude for the Carolyn's Comforts Fund. At the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital, there are many, many financial burdens that hospitalization frequently places on patients and their family members. The need is most often really very simple: money to pay for food, transportation, utilities or rent, clothing or medical equipment that's not covered by insurance. When our patients and their families struggle with these very basic expenses, the stress can be overwhelming, for often these families are dealing with children who are in the hospital for many, many months and are very, very sick. The generosity of this fund has allowed us to help ease the burden of financial hardship for more than 100 pediatric families who are in the midst of tremendously challenging times. Our sincerest thank you to you, Kevin and Greta, for recognizing and meeting this very, very important need. Your heartfelt kindness has touched the lives of so many. Thank you, Kevin, for being such a truly inspirational leader and a truly wonderful friend. Thank you.
All it takes to make a change is a single spark, a first step, a seed of curiosity, ready to grow. YWCA of Minneapolis is on a mission to start those sparks. Take those first steps, giving families the opportunity, the inspiration, the momentum, the power to soar. YWCA of Minneapolis. We soar when you soar.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your time this morning, and thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about YWCA. As Ruth said, I'm Mary Jones. I'm the Chief Advancement and Program Officer for YWCA Minneapolis. YWCA Minneapolis is a social justice organization dedicated to eliminating racism and empowering women and girls. Every single program we offer is designed to promote racial and gender equity and to help dismantle disparities in this community, in our community. We're part of the global YWCA, the oldest and largest multiracial women's organization in the world. Like many Minnesota institutions, we're widely regarded as one of the largest and strongest in our national network. This fall, we get to celebrate our 125th birthday, and as part of the research, I got a chance to watch a movie created in the 1930s by YWCA Minneapolis. Watching the two videos side by side, the one you just saw and the one from the 30s, it struck me how relevant our programs have stayed through the years. Like in the 30s, we welcome new Americans, we train women and girls for the workforce, we offer health and fitness and powerful social connection. We may be 125 years old, but we are strong. Our 600 employees work to educate young children, to build strength and vitality, to provide vibrant after-school experiences, and to help other organizations identify and eliminate their own institutional isms. We also have a long tradition of nurturing women leaders. and launching them into the community. I have two things to point out about that. First, I want to recognize a table of young women leaders in the front from the YWCA who are here. They're volunteer leaders from our Gen YWCA program, and they're phenomenal. I love working with these women, and I would tell you, take a look at them and step aside, because they're going to be running Minneapolis very soon. Second, I'm sad to say that we're going to be saying goodbye to our amazing CEO, Becky Roloff, next week, as Becky goes on to her next gig as the president of St. Catherine University. I think that this morning's forum, which is dedicated to inspirational leadership, is a great time to thank Becky on behalf of the community for her inspirational leadership and her vision. She's built a resilient, vibrant platform for the future of our organization. If you're interested in supporting YWCA's mission in Minneapolis, there's more information and brochures and remit envelopes on the table to the side, or you can ask any of these women leaders about the organization. Thanks very much.
Thank you to both of you. I am remiss in not acknowledging a sponsor. I am so sorry. A huge thank you to Tim Beery and First National Bank of Northfield. They have been fabulous supporters of this, and I am so sorry to have missed you on this. Please forgive me. We have all had leaders in our lives, people who have helped us, believed in us, encouraged us, pushed us a little harder, encouraged us to continue a little longer. Perhaps for you, it has been a parent, a coach, a conductor, a boss, or a teacher. Whoever it has been, what is it about these people that has inspired them to inspire others? We are in for a treat this morning. I can guarantee you will leave this room at least a bit more energized than when you walked in. In a few moments, we will hear from Kevin Warren, the COO of the Minnesota Vikings. But first, I would like to introduce you to Becky Roloff, the president and CEO of the YWCA of Minneapolis, as well as the soon-to-be president of St. Catherine's University. Becky has had an impressive and interesting career path, moving from corporate America to the not-for-profit world and now into higher education. After receiving her MBA from Harvard, Becky served as a grain merchant for Cargill, a vice president and general manager for Pillsbury, a senior vice president for American Express, and is currently the president and CEO of the YWCA of Minneapolis. Outside of work, Becky is interested in philanthropy, cooking, needlepoint. She took third place in a state competition a few years back. And the day before she assumes her presidency of St. Catherine University, she will compete in a triathlon. Becky is a dynamic leader, and I look forward to hearing her remarks. Please join me in welcoming Becky Roloff.
Thank you very I'm occasionally going to cough, but death is not imminent. I'm on recovery, and I'm spewing no bad things. My doctor said that I could go back to work. Ruth didn't tell you that with that third place finish for the state of Minnesota needlepoint, I also received a check for $8, which has remained uncashed. So just couldn't bear to ever let that check go. So thank you so much for inviting me here today. Kevin, you can't believe the points I put on the family scoreboard by even being on the same piece of paper as a member of a sports team. I came to sports late in life, but my son thought this was great. I marvel and was sometimes very jealous of people who always knew what they wanted to be. They wanted to be a doctor, or they wanted to be a dancer, or a teacher, or a police officer, or an entrepreneur, a pilot, a pro football player. That was not me. I knew I wanted to have a profession. I knew I wanted to be independent and take care of myself, but I struggled a bit to find it. I told this story during the on-campus interviews that I did at St. Catherine's just a few weeks ago. I started out declaring both pre-med and pre-law when I started St. Catherine's, which should have been a very clear indication of no clue, right? There's a long and winding road, with the punchline being that I avoided a choice about business administration because I thought that was for people who couldn't do anything else. Very ironic, isn't it? It took the head of financial aid, Sister Annalise, who's still living, and I still thank her, to sit me down at the end of my sophomore year and explain to me that undecided was not a major offered at St. Catherine's. And I was in danger of losing my financial aid if I didn't choose a major. Since I was putting myself through college, that did get my attention. The actual eating of words happened when I took my first economics class, and I loved it. It was a perfect blend for me of numbers, science, people, and practicality. And the rest, as they say, is history. And aside here is that if I would have had some clue earlier about studying economics, I often think about what I would have done, especially if you could go to college for a couple more years, like my younger son did. I would have triple majored in economics, I believe, English literature, and philosophy, and German if I could have managed 4. I love all those subjects. So reflection number 1 here would headline, sometimes you do need to wander in the woods for a while before you find something that seems just right, it engages you, it's natural to you. Well, I have loved business, I've loved leadership. It took me several years after Harvard Business School to admit to myself that I was not one of those people who ever had the core drive in my gut to have my own business. When you're at Harvard Business School, this is one of the dreams that swirls like perfume in the air, and you're surrounded by people dreaming of what they could start in their garage, right? Everyone has these visions of being the next whatever, and it's very impressive, and I would feel just a little bit of a fraud. I never pretended I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just never had the guts, for whatever reason, to say, wow, that's great, but I want to really be a member of a team working in a large group to a common purpose. That is not a sexy thing to want at Harvard Business School, let me tell you. What I did learn to figure out was that wanting to start a company, build it, does not mean that I don't have the spirit and desire to grow things, to figure things out, to keep things sustainable. And that entrepreneurial spirit has served me very well in my career, no more so than at the YWCA, where we have built a nice little sports endurance training business around our all-women's triathlon, which is the one I will do on August 14th, and I recruit heavily. So if you get near me, I will explain to you that we could still get you ready to do this. And we built a wonderful racial justice consulting business to fund our racial justice expansion in the community. And those are just 2 examples. So I had to get the question right in my own head so I could answer it, which means that entrepreneurial spirit doesn't necessarily mean that you want to be an entrepreneur. So reflection number 2 here would headline, there's a difference between adjectives and nouns. Entrepreneurial drive, I believe, is a critical leadership attribute that helps inspire others. Being an entrepreneur is a noun. Very important distinction. The reason I was able to say yes 12 years ago to the YWCA was that I was in a position to say yes. For the past 31 years, I've been the sole provider in our family. My wonderful husband, Mark, stepped out of his professional career to be a stay-at-home dad to our first son. While that is very common now, this was highly unusual 31 years ago. We had set a goal when I joined then IDS that the number that we would have to have saved so that work would be optional for me. We picked a number, and at age 50, with good markets and career progress, we made it. Though I must say the number doesn't look as big as it did in the beginning when you actually pull the ripcord. That was the core setup that let me say yes when the YWCA phone call came of whether or not I would be interested or I would know something. The house and cabin were paid for, college was funded, retirement was funded. And those items had to be in place for me to keep the commitments I had made to Mark and to my two sons when I took an 80% pay cut. That, you notice an 80% pay cut. My son Sam, who was 16 years old at the time, I sat him down and told him what I was about to do, and he was really perplexed as to why I was telling him this. Those of you at 16-year-old boys. And finally I said, Sam, I'm going to go from American Express to the YWCA, and I said it's a significant change, and et cetera. And the wheels are turning now, and Sam says, "Can we still buy stuff?" I said, "Yes, Samuel, just maybe not as much stuff." Well, then he thought it was a pretty good idea that he didn't have any issue, and he went out of the house. I think this had a lot to do with driving at 16. And without the financial underpinning, the option to even ask the question of whether or not I was interested in the YWCA would never have made it past that initial phone call. So reflection number 3 would headline for me, money doesn't give you happiness, it just gives you options. And the first 3 rules of finance we learned at Harvard Business School, but I already knew from my mother, still holds. Never run out of cash, never run out of cash, never run out of cash. Most important thing. And that brings me to today. I know that over the coming weeks, I'll have more time to reflect on the past 12 years and what lies ahead as I assume a dream job that I never dreamt of. Number 1, you are only as good as your team. And the sooner you figure that out in any situation you're in, and figure out a kind way to deal with someone who perhaps should not be in that position, the better off your organization is. Sometimes people truly do get stuck in positions that do not play to their strength. I think sports teams avoid this in a really dramatic way by actually hiring for a strength, developing it, and then telling you on television what that strength is. Because every person does have a strength. You just need to see if that strength is for the job that you need done, and it always isn't. My asset test on overall leadership capability is whether or not I would work for that person. If I wouldn't work for that person, why in the world would I ask anyone else to work for that person? And we have an incredible team at the YWCA. Mary Jones, who is up here before, is going to be the interim president of the YWCA when I assume my role at St. Kate's. And if you want to talk about fine leadership, she's sitting right there. Second point, tell the truth. Tell the truth, tell the truth, tell the truth. When I would hit really rough patches, which I do, maybe none of you have ever had that happen, and spill my heart out to my mother, who passed away 7 years ago, she would ask me 2 questions. 1, are you telling the truth in whatever the work situation I was in? And number 2 is, are you working as hard as you can to figure out a solution? When I would say yes, my mother would say, well, then what are you worried about? Just say your prayers, everything is going to work out okay. And she is 100% right. It always worked out okay. Point number 3, when you realize you have made a mistake, stop, get out. I learned this best when I started my career as a grain trader, and that was my first career as a grain trader for Cargill in Amarillo, Texas. What you learn very quickly in dramatic fashion is your first loss in something is generally your cheapest loss. I know that's not true in every single instance, but when you have time, really think about it. I bet in your particular business or situation, you'll find out it's true 80 or 90% of the time. One of my strengths is to stop immediately when I believe I've made a mistake or I believe our team has made a mistake. My ego is nowhere to be found. I get the team focused on the car we have either just driven into the ditch or found out that a car of ours was in the ditch and we didn't know it. Both of those are big problems. Then my dad's influence, who owned and ran a full-service gas station, comes into play. Number one, get the car out of the ditch. Number two, only after the car is out of the ditch, then find out why it went into the ditch. And third, then make sure it never goes into the ditch again. And I cannot tell you how hard it is or how helpful it is to remember this. First of all, it stops any energy being focused on blame while you are trying to manage the crisis. And then, when you do get the car out of the ditch, you can go back and find out, why did that car go into the ditch? This is generally no fun to do, but if you don't do it, you failed as a leader, in my opinion, because you're likely to let another car go in the ditch if you don't figure out why did that car go in the ditch in the first place. What's most not fun about it is you have to face your own role in it, because you likely had one. You either had a poor leader in place, or you had a process you knew wasn't quite up to speed, but you hoped nothing would happen. You were buying some time. Generally, you had a role in it. And then, what changes do you need to make to ensure that the car does not go in the ditch again? And I know another car can go in, but the same car shouldn't go in the ditch again. Number 4, what you pray for matters. In the past 6 months, when the St. Kate's opportunity came up, I prayed for 3 things, and through the twists and turns, best left for another time, I believe all 3 prayers were answered. I prayed for what was best for my family, what was best for the future of the YWCA, and what was best for the future of St. Catherine University, and I think all 3 have had their prayers answered. Number 5, leave a legacy, not stuff. You heard about a beautiful legacy that Kevin and his wife have left. A change like the ones I made from corporate executive to president of the YWCA and now on to St. Catherine's requires you to break from conventional wisdom. I'd like to share a story that's very dear to me and has influenced my life a great deal. Might be the most important story. My younger and only sister died very unexpectedly at age 33. She left behind 2 daughters. One was 2.5 years old. The other was just 6 days old, Sophie and Anna. At her funeral, which was in Our Lady of Victory Chapel at St. Catherine's, my brother shared a story that Madonna had told him just a few weeks earlier. And the story was that a woman heard a carnival was coming to town, and she just loved carnivals. And so she set a goal that she was going to ride every single ride in that entire carnival. She did her research. She found out the cost of every single ride. She saved. And the days that the carnival opened, she was there when the door opened, and she had enough coins in her pocket to ride every single ride in that carnival. But when she got inside, she realized that she hadn't asked the question of how much time would it take to ride every ride inside the circus. So she had enough coins to ride all the rides, but she didn't have enough time to ride all the rides. And that was my brother's point in the story, and I believe why my sister had liked that story so much, because how you spend your coins of time is all the choices we have. And isn't it amazing in life how quickly we don't do something because we don't have time? In the beginning, it starts out, oh, I can't take that trip because we can't afford it. And then it turns into, oh, I'd love to go, but I don't have any time. And it happens before you know it. So the rides my sister had chosen had been very good rides with her family and her teaching passion. She was an English teacher at St. Louis Park. So when the YWCA opportunity came along 12 years ago, I thought about this a lot. No one in this room knows how many coins of time you have left, especially coins of leadership time. And I wanted to use however many coins of leadership time I have left the best that I can. I truly wanted to keep growing, I wanted to keep learning, and the YWCA let me do that. While I likely may have been able to afford more stuff had I stayed in the corporate world, I had the chance to work with others to really build a legacy for the community that I think will last for many years ahead. I have never looked back. When the St. Catherine University opportunity presented itself, it was another opportunity to go through the reflection of how to spend these leadership coins. And while I have cried my way out of every organization I've ever been in, I do and will leave the YWCA with a great feeling of peace and pride. Next reflection, bloom where you're planted and be kind while you are there. People who work for nonprofits or in education or public service are not morally superior. It takes people who want to do the work, and it takes support from people working in corporations to support that work and their businesses, because I think when you have capitalism and social justice live side by side, that's what makes a strong community. You need both parts of that. In the case of committing yourself in your leadership role, whatever that is to care and accept the backgrounds of many people around you and help them be successful. You make decisions every day for the kind of culture you want in your organization. You have a personal role in doing it, no matter what your role is in that organization. Every 2 years, we do an engagement survey at the YWCA. It's a significant investment for us, but one our team thinks is very important. We added a question the last time around that I heard from a woman who is head of human resources for a huge international service organization. She said the single best question, which tells her human resource team whether or not a leader is creating a culture in which all can perform, in which all feel included, is this question: I can be myself at work. We added that question in our last survey. 89% of our employees said yes, 7% were neutral, and 4% were unfavorable. Measures like that, I believe, help you be accountable and take responsibility for the culture that you're in. Some in this room may remember Win Wallen. He was the CEO at Pillsbury when I was there for a wonderful 10 years. At his funeral, they had his favorite quotes, and this was one of mine because it was so Win. Some people see value in confrontation and a lot of blood on the floor, but I don't buy it. The way to find the best answer to any question is for everyone to feel free to speak up, even if that means challenging the boss. Of all the leadership traits a person can have, the most important is kindness, and I believe Win is right. When I spoke with Ruth today in preparation, I asked her where she had gotten the theme that went on the invitation we all received. Remember what it said? It said, what makes a good leader in this day and age? The answer is much different than it was 10 years ago. Her words, not mine. I asked Ruth why she thought that what a good leader was had changed, and she shared that in her softball coaching, she has found out that students have changed in 10 years, that they have the expectation because they show up and they want to play that she should play them. Ruth would explain to them that what earned them the right to play was their performance, not their perception or memory of their skill. And I've thought about that a lot. I don't think what being a good leader, Ruth, has really changed for you. I believe you were a good leader 10 years ago, and you're a good leader now. What changed was not your philosophy. You have to perform to be on the field. That has not changed. But rather, the time you take as a leader to explain your philosophy, and likely the patience and kindness it takes to be able to have somebody understand that who probably didn't understand that before. Lastly, and most importantly to me and to our team, is do good work and have fun. Every day isn't fun. If it was, or if you have fun every day, we should all share the same drug. But I know every day isn't perfect. I've tried to teach my son that every job, no matter how much you love your job, has 10 to 20% crapola in it. Can be, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. Every job has it. Just accept that. But that means that it has 80 to 90% fun. How great is that? I live by one of my heroes, Teddy Roosevelt, who said in 1903 in Syracuse, New York, "Far and away, the best prize that life offers is the chance to work hard at work worth doing. Building good organizations, being good employers, giving people hope and optimism for the future, building our communities together, being a personal example of a strong ethical leader in whatever realm we find ourselves. That is working hard at work worth doing." Thank you.
Becky, you hit on a major point of my personal philosophy. I think one needs to have fun as they go through life. And I quite often will sign an email, "Do something silly today." Thank you. That was great. Kevin Morin is the Chief Operating Officer of the Vikings. Prior to being named COO, he served as the club's Executive Vice President of Legal Affairs and Chief Administrative Officer. Before coming to the Vikings, he worked for the international law firm of Greenberg and Traurig. He has worked with the Detroit Lions and wears a Super Bowl ring from the St. Louis Rams. His entrance into sports law came after graduating from Notre Dame Law School, when he worked with the iconic SEC Commissioner Mike Silva and sports attorney Mike Glazier at a firm that specialized in representing institutions of the NCAA. He has also worked as a sports and entertainment agent. Outside of work, Kevin is also involved with community service, as we've heard, and philanthropy. Please join me in giving Kevin Morin a warm welcome.
Ruthie, thank you for that introduction, and Becky, also thank you so very much. I'm always humbled when I get a chance to stand before any crowd. I take it seriously, and I really take your word seriously. So thanks for the introduction and the invitation, and it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm going to do what I always do, and that is to really just speak from my heart. It's not always perfect, but I just think it's important nowadays, as Becky alluded to, and congratulations on your new job, that, you know, life is truly is a journey. But as I stand before you today, I really am an humbled person, because like you, I started off pre-med, and it's amazing how your life takes twists and turns. And probably the reason why I went into law was the fact that my biology and chemistry labs conflicted with practice. And I say that sincerely, that a lot of schools now are going to have their student athletes practice in the morning, and if that would have happened, then I probably would have accomplished the goal to be a pediatrician, is what I really always wanted to do anyway. So maybe the next phase of my life I can go back to medical school. So but I say that, and one of the reasons why I'm just honored to have our family friends here today from the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital in honor of my sister is because I spent a lot of time in hospitals as a kid growing up. I was hit by an automobile when I was about 12 years old, and was probably the worst day of my life when it happened, but it turned out to be the best thing in my life as I look back. So I was struck by a car by a lady. It was not her fault. I don't think she meant to do it. At least that's what I tell myself. But I was hit by a car and was thrown in the air 30 or 40 feet. And that's really the first time that I realized that the hand of God was on me and on my life, because I landed on a little piece of grass. If I had moved probably 3 feet to the right, left, north, or south, I wouldn't be standing before you today. But of all the traumatic experiences that I went through that day, I came out with a broken femur, and I say only a broken femur. I didn't know that the femur was the largest bone in your body at the time, but I didn't have any head injuries. I didn't have any internal injuries. I just broke my femur. But it was a traumatic day because as a young kid, we didn't have cell phones at that point in time, so they couldn't get in contact with my parents, so they ended up taking me not to one but 2 hospitals. The first hospital they took me to couldn't treat me in Mesa, Arizona, so then they transported me to Good Samaritan Hospital in Phoenix, Arizona, so they couldn't contact my parents until later in the day. And as I was in the back of the ambulance, there was a lot of chatter and talk that was going around, and a lot of the people there kept saying that I was not going to make it. And I don't think they thought that I could hear them, and I didn't know I could hear them, but there was one beautiful woman who had a beautiful voice that kept telling the people there, don't say that. Don't say that, he's going to be fine. And I really just hung on to her words during that long trek in the ambulance until I ended up in the hospital. And after about 2 weeks, once I got settled in the hospital, she came back to say that she wanted to check on me and that she knew that I would make it. And I just really thanked her, and I thank her every day, don't even know her name, and I wish I could find her, because it was really her words that encouraged me to hang on. And when I get low or when I have to deal with certain issues, I tell myself, don't say that. And sometimes you have to encourage yourself. And I think the moral of that story is that our words do matter. They matter to people, and her encouragement was powerful to me, is still powerful to me some 40 years later. And as I tell people all the time, every day that I wake up, said it this morning, and I can blink my eyes and swallow and wiggle my toes, then I'm in the race. And I have an opportunity to change someone else's life for the best. I have an opportunity to use my God-given ability to make this world a better place. And that's what I strive to do every single day. Because as I say all the time, I truly have been flat on my back. And I keep a picture on my desk of me in the hospital as a constant reminder when I get caught up in all of the issues that we have to deal with on a daily basis and working for a professional sports franchise. But when you spend 9 months out of your life of eating all your meals, drinking all your liquids, not to get too graphic, but having to go to the bathroom on your back, then everything after that is pretty easy. And I would challenge everyone here today, if you go home, if you don't believe me, just take a Saturday or a Sunday and eat all your meals, drink all your fluids, and go to the restroom, all while you're laying on your back. And that's what I did for 6 weeks in traction, and then about 7.5 months in a body cast that came up to my chest. So I feel very blessed every day that I can wake up and kind of get into this thing that we call life and hopefully make a change in someone's life for the better. And that's why I'm really honored to be able to work with the people at the hospital to hopefully change the lives of someone, because you never really know that one little small act that may seem small to you is the differentiating fact in someone's life to really to keep hope, to push forward, and to become great. So when Ruthie asked me to talk about my leadership style, I get asked that a lot. You know, it's pretty simple. I probably have about 25 tenets that I could talk about, but due to time restrictions today, I'm just going to narrow it down to 3 of them. I think the first one, what I really try to do is listen with my ears, my eyes, and my heart. So many leaders nowadays just only listen with their ears. They go by what people tell them, what they hear, what they think they hear. And I found out to be a successful leader, I always listen with my ears, I listen with my eyes, and most of all, I listen with my heart. And that's one of the things I think is really important from a leadership standpoint, because it's so very easy just to listen to different things. You know, you turn on one station on the television and you hear something that go, boy, that makes sense. And you flip on another station on the same issue and you listen to what they say and you say, that makes sense. And I think the biggest mistake that leaders have done nowadays is they just only listen with their ears. One of the things that I do very regularly, and I did it in the playoffs, in the NBA playoffs this year, is that I watch high-level sports competition with the sound off. Because when you watch sports with the sound off, it'll really tell you how the ebb and flow of the game is going. And I felt deeply, and I say this sincerely, I don't gamble, I don't bet, but if someone had asked me to place a bet after the fourth game in the NBA Finals this year, and I told my family this, Cleveland's going to win this series, down 3-1. Because I had watched the first couple games with the sound down, and their body language sent off signals that they believed that they were in charge and that they were going to do the very best they possibly could do. I don't know if Golden State was tired. I don't know if they were worn out. I don't know if they felt that they had accomplished certain goals. But with the sound down, there's so much that you can learn about what really is going on with the team, with an organization, with the franchise, with the family. And that's why it's so important, as I said, from a leadership standpoint, to develop a skill, to watch games, to observe, to run a business. Listen through your ears, but you got to listen with your eyes, and most of all, listen with your heart. The second item is, I learned this early on, is that all of the information there from a leadership standpoint is there at your fingertips. But so many of us spend the time, back to sports, is we focus on what happens during the game. And this was really hit my heart as a senior in college, as a basketball player. I had a scout come to watch me, to observe me, to see if he wanted to give me an opportunity to play professional basketball in Europe. And he came to practice, and at the end of warm-ups, he left. Then he came to one of my games, and at the end of warm-ups, he left again. So I went to my coach and I said, this guy's not really serious. He must have some family or friends that he wanted to come out and hang out with and play golf, because he's surely not serious. He didn't even stay for the game. And my coach said something to me that I never have forgotten. He said he saw all that he needed to see by watching you warm up. Because the game is the easy part. Most people can get ready for the game. Most people get ready for big tests. Most people get ready for press conferences. Most people get ready for big events and big negotiations. But the truly great people really get ready for warm-ups, and they get ready for practice. And you can tell a lot about a person from a leadership standpoint, how they approach practice and how they approach warm-ups. And so one of the things that I focus on every day in our organization is to observe people on how they practice and how they warm up. Because in watching them practice and watching them warm up, you already know how they're going to play. I expect people to play, and I don't mean that play in a game. I'm talking about play from a business standpoint. I expect people, if we have a big press conference when media's there, or there's a big negotiation on a big deal, I expect people to be on their best. Their hair cut, makeup done, shoes polished, teeth brushed. All those things are in place. But from a truly leadership standpoint, the things that I really observe is how you warm up and how you practice. That's why one of the things that I did when I got promoted to Chief Operating Officer in February of 2015, and I would be remiss if I did not thank the Wilf family for giving me an opportunity. Because as was said in the introduction earlier, it's not a big deal to me, but it's a big deal to others. But there's never been someone who looks like me who has been a chief operating officer for a National Football League team. And I don't take that lightly. And so I thank them for giving me the opportunity. But one of the things that I did, one of the many things that I was fortunate to do when I was promoted, is I sat down with every one of our employees on the business side for a one-on-one meeting. Regardless of your position, people thought I was insane when I announced that I was going to do it. Sat down one-on-one. Some of these meetings went from 30 minutes, some went to 2 hours. But what I was really saying to the employees is that you really are important. And your ideas and your thoughts and what you do are truly important to me personally. They're important to our ownership, and they're important to the franchise. And your thoughts and ideas need to be incorporated in our day-to-day operations, because it will make a difference. And it's amazing when you sit down with people, not to placate them, but truly sit down with them and showing interest to get a sense of what's important to them. It's amazing how people buy in. And if you then carry it out and what they tell you in a meeting, what they recommend, that then they come to work and you're doing it. We had one of our youngest employees who is effervescent, who has an incredible personality. In my one-on-one with her, she made a statement to me that why don't we have all of our employees' pictures and bios on the website? I said, interesting question, because all NFL teams have the ownership, they have the executives, they have a few other employees, they have the coaches and the players on the website. But every else employee, they just have it listed. And I said, why do you say that? She said, because I have a grandmother who lives on the West Coast, who's in a retirement home, and she was bragging that I work for the Vikings. And because my name is different than her other people in the retirement home didn't believe her. They said, that's not your granddaughter. And she said, my grandmother, it would mean a lot to her if she could show them that her granddaughter, here's her picture, here's her bio, that she did work for the Minnesota Vikings. It took us about 30 minutes to make that change. We sent out an email to tell people in our organization, if you want your picture, if you want your bio, on our website, show up at this point in time, take your picture, and tell us what you want to put, where you went to school or whatever the case may be. Without fail, everyone did it. So if you go on our website now, regardless of position, and click on their link, their picture will come up if they wanted it to be there in their bio. How do you think that young lady felt as a 24-year-old person right out of school that she did that, made that recommendation to me in a one-on-one meeting, and then now it's in place? So as I said, from a second point of leadership standpoint, that's why you got to watch practice. That's why you got to watch warm-ups. Because it's in that practice and warm-ups that you really understand and get a chance to figure out what details are important. So that's why those one-on-one meetings were really important. I'm doing it again this year, more so in a group setting. The other thing that I'm doing, we restructured the entire organization. We have 10 vice presidents now that we didn't have before, 3 of which are women in very prominent positions, and the CFO, and the general counsel, VP of legal, and stadium development. We have 3 of our 10 vice presidents are women in very important positions. So one of the things I made a decision to do, which I just started last month, and it'll take me over the next 9 to 10 months, is I told all our newly appointed vice presidents, I want to go and have dinner, not with your family and significant other, that's important, I will do that, but I want to go have dinner with you and your parents, regardless of where they are in the country. And they said, well, why do you do that? Why is that important? Again, back to saying, one, I care about you, but you can learn a lot about a person. And it's not about trying to find something bad. I'm in the position now where all I'm trying to do is coach our people and provide an environment to them so they can be their best. So I did my first dinner for our newly vice president of legal affairs and in charge of HR. She was a lawyer at Cargill for 18 years. She was general counsel of North America at Cargill, and she joined our organization about 2 months ago. So I had my first dinner meeting with Vice President and her parents, and she lives in Westbrook, Minnesota. So on Memorial Day, I got up early, got a workout in, met at the office, and we drove down and had lunch with her parents and drove back so I could have dinner with my family. And what that really meant to her and her family was, one, to tell them very clearly that I care about you and that I am going to take care of your daughter. But secondly, when you go in someone's home, in their parents' home, no matter how much people may try to paint a different picture for you, and people are good at that, is that if you go have a chance to sit down with their parents or their parent, if they come from a single family home, or if one of their parents has passed, you will learn everything that you need to know. And although I knew her and I've known her and it took me a couple years to recruit her, just that one day spent, I know her at a higher level now than it would have probably taken me 10 years to get to that point. You can't spend enough time with your employees. You can't spend enough time with your people. And again, back to looking for the details in practice and in warm-ups is really critical. The third point that's important to me from a leadership standpoint, as I said, number one, listen with your ears, eyes, and heart. Secondly, was take time to watch practice and show up early for warm-ups. And the last item is always return the wallet. You may say, what does that mean? Last weekend, I've been very fortunate. I have 2 healthy kids. I have a healthy wife. We've been blessed from a health standpoint. And that's really so important. I don't take my health lightly. I've been very fortunate. I just finished my 26th year from graduating from law school, and we have another domer here, Catherine, who's with Great Plant Moody, and she's here. Domers have to take care of each other. She graduated. Catherine, stand up. She just graduated. Come on, stand up now. She graduated. Let's give her a hand. Yeah. She just graduated in May from the University of Notre Dame, joined Great Plant Moody. I graduated in 1990. That's probably, as my son would say, he thinks that's like the Civil War or something, 1990. But one thing that Notre Dame does a great job of is that they demand that the graduates take care of each other. So we connected right before here and exchanged cards, and I will look out for her. One bit of advice, and I don't give much free advice, is that it goes fast. It goes fast. And so all the things that you think you're worrying about right now, you'll accomplish those and more. But just make sure you take time to enjoy your life. But my son is a student athlete. He'll be a senior at Minnetonka High School. He's a tight end. He's being recruited by many schools. And so I've been very, very fortunate through all this craziness of building a new stadium and running a business and building a new practice facility, all of these different things, is I've been very fortunate to go with him to all of these camps. And so in the last 30 days, we've gone to the University of Pittsburgh, we've gone to Arizona State, we went to University of Central Florida, we've been to Syracuse, we were in Michigan on Monday, we're going to North Dakota State this weekend, in Iowa, and then back to the Gophers next month, and Alabama and UCLA and various places. And this has been an incredible, incredible journey with him. So last Friday, he and I got on a plane about 7:30 to fly to Orlando. He had a workout at University of Central Florida on Saturday, and then he was going to Syracuse camp on Sunday, and then to Ann Arbor on Monday for Michigan's camp. But when we landed in Orlando, it was late. It was about 12:30 a.m. He had a workout at 9:30. We were trying to find the rental-car place and get our bags and all those different kind of things. And while we were standing there, I noticed that there was a wallet on top of the baggage cart. And so I opened it up, and as most 17-year-old kids would say, Dad, it's late, it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm tired, I gotta get my rest, I have a workout, just leave the wallet there, I'm sure the guy will come back and get it. I said, Powers, we can't leave this wallet here. And when I opened it up, there were $60 in cash in it, and there were a couple cards. This guy was a retired veteran from our armed services, had fought in Vietnam, but I couldn't find any identification in it. And by this time, the bags have come off, and my son Powers is like, Dad, we need to go. And we did need to go. I tried to call Lost and Found. They were closed, so I took the wallet with me. And my son again said, Dad, just leave the wallet there. I'm sure the man will come back. I said, Powers, I don't know if he will come back. He won't be able to get his medication. He doesn't have identification. It's a driver's license. So I took the wallet with me. I spent almost half of the night trying to track this person down. I couldn't do it. So the next morning I started again. My son gets up in the morning. We have our routine where I get up early on these road trips. I go work out and make sure he has breakfast and get him ready to go. And by the time I came back and got him up to go, he said, "You're still fooling around with that wallet?" I said, "Yeah." And I found a card in the wallet that had a number of someone who was in charge of the Florida Department for Retired Military Personnel. So I just called this guy and said, "You're probably gonna think this is crazy, but I found this wallet. Here's the gentleman's name. Can you help me? Because your card was in his wallet." And he said, "I'll call you back." About 20 minutes later, he called back and he said I was able to track him down in the register and gave me his number. So I called this gentleman. You know what's interesting about life? Because the way the world is people don't believe, they think everything is a scam or something. You know, I'm trying to call to help this young man out, older gentleman, and I don't think he believed it. So finally, after I spoke with him, told him where we were staying and I was gonna leave his wallet at the front desk, and he was very appreciative. So we went over to the college, Powers got his workout in, we came back, and as the Lord would have it, we were packing our bags up, getting ready to go to the airport to fly to Syracuse, New York. This gentleman and his wife, and he was a disabled, retired military veteran, were pulling up literally as we were getting in our cars. I mean, literally simultaneously. As we were walking out, the lady said, "Someone left my husband's wallet here at the front desk. I'm here to pick it up." And the lady at the front desk said, "There's Mr. Warren right there." And this woman looked at me. I don't know what she expected to see or who I was or whatever the case may be, but she hugged me like I really haven't been hugged by someone who I just met. And I say it sincerely. And it was a hug of true gratitude. When I went outside to get in the cab, he got out of the car with his cane and he did the same thing. And I could see the light in my son's head go off to say, now I see why Dad took the time to do what he did. And the moral of the story is that so many times that we think that we're in a place for a reason. That trip to Florida really wasn't about my son working out at Central Florida. That was what we thought we were going for. It was really about returning this man's wallet. Because the lady at the front desk was choked up. These two people who you can tell who had had a rough experience in life were thankful and grateful. But most of all, my 17-year-old son got a chance to really understand the importance of taking the time of always returning the wallet. Because that was we flew to Florida to really return the wallet. I don't know where he'll end up in college, but that's a lesson that he will learn. And part of this other recruiting process I've always done is I always get a one-bedroom suite because it only has one bed in the suite. And the first time we started doing this earlier in the year, when we got in there, he was like, "No, Dad, you can sleep in the bed." I said, "No, It's not about me anymore. It's about you." And so it's interesting now that every trip we go on, he even asked me, Because these pull-out couches, I don't know a lot, but if I ever started a hotel chain, one thing I would do is I would change pull-out couches, because there are things that have stuck me in my back and poked me in my eye that I didn't know existed on mattresses. But I heard him telling one of his friends recently, can you believe my dad sleeps on a pull-out couch? So when I think about that, I don't know where he'll go to school, but having a chance to travel with him has afforded me an opportunity to hopefully help him to learn how to be a good husband and a good father. And that's really what life is about. I've been blessed with a Super Bowl ring and different houses and cars and meeting heads of states and staying in some of the finest hotels. But the thing that really means the most to me are the relationships that I've developed and the people that I've been able to impact. So my prayer every morning is that, Lord, give me another day on this earth to wiggle my toes, to blink my eyes, to swallow, so I can just get back in the race. So as I take my seat, I did an interview yesterday with Northwestern Mutual Life. I served on their policy owner executive committee. It's been going on for 125 years. They picked 6 policy owners to come in and basically audit their business. So last year I spent 3 long weekends there looking at their business. And so the magazine called me to do an interview as I was driving yesterday. And the lady asked me, why do you do, what you do? And so I started focusing on work. She said, I'm not talking about work, but why do you do what you do for the community? And I had to think about it. And I got so emotional, I had to pull over downtown. And there's two stories that I'll share with you, and they come from my parents. One, my mother was a librarian, and she had a rough life. Her father left home when she came home from school in 8th grade. She never saw him again. They were so poor, they lived literally in a tent for a year in Arizona with dirt floors. She was the brightest person I've ever been around. Her fun was writing research papers for people. So she could talk about anything, sports, medicine, law, business, whatever the case may be. But I thought back that in my mom's funeral, there was a group of people kind of in their 50s who came up and kind of thanked our family for my mom. Because when she was a librarian, didn't make a lot of money, she had book scholarships that she would give these students scholarships to cover their books for their entire high school career. So 40 years later, these people came back to her service just to thank the family for my mom. And so when I think about that, for someone to cover someone's books through high school, and these people went on to be teachers and firemen and police officers and doctors and lawyers based upon a simple act of a book scholarship, was powerful. And then the last thing that hit me is that my dad, who was truly my hero, he died in 2002, and I was with the Detroit Lions, and I was flying home every week to spend time with him. Had never been sick after he had had a stroke. And then once he passed, I went to the house to start kind of cleaning things out. And he had ordered a sport coat and a couple pair of slacks that ironically had been delivered to the house the day before I arrived. And they were hanging on the door. And when I looked at those, I said, there's so many times in life that things are delivered to us. And I said that he'll never wear those clothes again. And that's really why I focus on trying to do things for people now, kind of while they're alive, to tell people I love them, I thank them, I appreciate them. Because I just stood there and stared at that sport coat and a couple pair of slacks and said, when he ordered these clothes, he had all the intention of the world, probably had the place planned that he was going to wear them to. And he never got a chance to wear them. Life is short, life is fragile, it goes fast. And so my only prayer and hope for everyone in this room today is you give more than you take, and then you take the time to really embrace every day, every person, every opportunity. Because for all of us, there will come a time that we'll order something. It may be clothes, it may be a dress, it may be a blender, it may be a watch, that it will arrive after you get a chance to enjoy it. So enjoy every day. Ruthie, again, thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to stand before you today. And I just really wish everyone in here the ability to reach your goals, to listen to God, and to leave this place better than it was before you started your journey. So thank you very much. Thanks for your support of the Minnesota Vikings. And I look forward to the day that we can bring a Lombardi trophy home to this, and I say it sincerely. But thank you for your support. It really is special. And I consider myself now, after 12 years, that I truly am a Minnesotan. I can say that honestly. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you again to our 4 sponsors and for all of you and for joining us this morning. We will not have a formal Q&A, but our speakers will be around, so please feel free to approach them if you have a question for them. Last, I want to invite you to join us on October 20th for the next chapter of our Common Good Breakfast series entitled The Talent Gap. Although hiring and retaining talent has always been a challenge for businesses and organizations, today the problem is much bigger. Much of the incoming workforce lacks the skills and knowledge needed for today's jobs, and this event will explore why. Please join us and tell your friends about the Common Good Breakfast series. Now, go, be leaders and inspire, and make it a great day. Thank you.